Hello everyone, today we are going to be building some more Jurassic World. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from my last two dinosaur builds, so I'll be building another one today. A lot of you have been asking for a D-Rex part list. Information on that will be coming soon. But today we will be building a dinosaur from my recent post. I asked you all which dinosaur I should build, and I got the most votes on the Scorpios Rex. I will revisit the Mutodon for anyone who voted for it. Now before we begin this build, if you're unfamiliar with this dinosaur, it comes from the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous series. I personally like the design of this dinosaur and think it looks pretty creepy. I tried my best to capture this look, and I think my model came out pretty good, so stay tuned to the end of the video if you want to see the final result. The trick with this dinosaur is it's pretty thin and it's not as large as some of the other dinosaurs I've tackled, so for this one I'll have to build at a smaller scale. Just like my last two dinosaur videos, LEGO has not released this dinosaur before, but they have released Camp Cretaceous sets. I usually try to scale my builds around already existing dinosaurs, and for this one the Indoraptor was perfect. The Scorpios Rex has a similar color scheme and same size. I'll be comparing the two at the end of this video. And just like the last video, I made a stand so this dinosaur doesn't fall over when you try to stand it up. It doesn't look too nice, but it serves its purpose. The first part of this dinosaur I built was the torso. What made this build unique compared to the last two videos was I smoothed out the top and bottom of this model. To achieve this, I had to use some pretty difficult techniques in the middle of it. You can see when I remove this piece that some of the plates are facing down and some of them are facing upward. Along with technicals for the arms and legs, I have ball joint pieces for the neck and tail later on. The next part I built was the tail. I built it in 3 sections. I had to keep rebuilding the tail over and over again because it looked too bulky for the dinosaur. Eventually I settled on this thinner design, which I think looks a lot better. For the end of the tail, I used some clip pieces to try to represent the spikes at the end of the tail. I also used these clip pieces to represent the spikes on the head later on. The next part of this build I made was a small neck piece. You can see I added spikes on the top as well as continuing that dark tan pattern on the bottom. Although this part is very small, it sticks the head out enough from the body that it doesn't look too awkward. And then we move on to the back legs. There's a lot of detail I needed to pack into this small build. You could see the one claw sticking up at the top there like a raptor's foot. You can also see I added another spike sticking out of the back of the leg. I used a lot of clip pieces for this part, so it's able to bend and move a lot more than most other parts of my build. I was happy I ended up making most of this part only 1 stud thick, which really helps since all the limbs on this creature are very thin. And of course I also had to build 2 legs for this dinosaur too. And just like usual, the build is the exact same, just inverted. And now at the legs done, we move up to the front arms. These are even harder than the back legs since they had to be even smaller and thinner. I had to use some interesting techniques to get this arm to look good, and one of those was using this minifigure binocular piece for the hands. The hand had to be pretty small to fit on this arm, and here we have the second one as well. Now all parts of the dinosaur are complete except for the head, which was definitely the most difficult part of this build. My final result looks pretty derpy, but I do like how it turned out. Since I was building at such a small scale, it was hard to pack in all of the necessary details. You can see those clip pieces in the back of the head I had mentioned earlier to represent the spikes. And you can see here the bottom jaw doesn't come with any teeth and it is pretty finicky. My favorite part is that tiny little red eye in there. Overall, I think I added most of the key characteristics needed. Now that the head is complete, we can add all of our parts together to complete the build. First, I started by adding the back legs to the torso. The limbs on this dinosaur are a lot more sturdy than my previous ones, but have trouble standing up on their own. The legs on my Parasaurolophus build, most notably the front legs, were very fragile, so I was very pleased to see that these held together pretty well. And now we're adding on the front arms. After seeing all the limbs fit into place pretty well, I think this is the most stable arms and legs of the dinosaurs I built so far. Here we begin to add the tail. The 2 plates on the sides are only held in by 1 stud, so that's probably the most fragile part of this build. Now we're adding that really small neck piece in here. This part seems pretty insignificant, but I think it makes a big impact overall. Now it's finally time that we add the head onto the build. I did use some tricky connections to get this head put together, so I was a little nervous attaching it on. Thankfully it all went really smoothly and I'm really happy with how this build turned out. But before I call this build done, we have to attach it to its stand. The connection to the plate is pretty easy since it's only a couple 1x2 plates that the feet attach to. It's a little tricky getting them to line up properly, but once they're on there, it's a very stable connection. Now that it's all attached, this build is complete. This build was a pretty fun challenge, and I had a really enjoyable time putting this whole thing together. I was actually really happy with how this turned out, and I feel like it represents the dinosaur pretty well. Now the final test is seeing how it compares to my reference. Some online sources do say the Scorpios Rex is bigger, and my model is just a little bit bigger than the Indoraptor. I think comparing it to the Indoraptor was a good way to get a sense of scale of how big this thing should be. With that, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye!